Drugs, money, and radicalization can buy you anything. A woman in a village, when she sees a man with weapon, she also knows that my child may get gravitated towards that. I guess there can't be a better time to go for polls.
The 370. Can it be an election issue in Kashmir?
If you are able to swing a chord that ये आपका था और आपका हक छीन लिया गया, it may strike the chord.
As far as the security situation is concerned, both Jammu and Kashmir are ready for elections.
There will never be a perfect condition that can be insulated for elections to be done, particularly in this region of Jammu and Kashmir.
Why is
Why
the focus
this-
now shifting towards south of Pir Panjal?
The terrain south of Pir Panjal is nearly 3 times. This is the place where technology gets defeated. When you get into a cave, when you get into a fold, how much ever you fly RPV or UAVs and drones, it goes bust.
Are they targeting security personnel?
They possibly want to discredit the present system of the governance or government. They want to tell a message that the peace is still fragile.
You're a communications person, so tell me the pressures on India from powerful nations to open up communication with Pakistan.
Communication should always be on, but you have to be smart about the communication.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to another edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. My guest today is former commander of the Chinar Corps, Lieutenant General Devendra Pratap Pandey. The conversation today is about Kashmir, which goes to polls later this month. It's almost 10 years since elections were held here. Naturally, security forces are on high alert as terror groups might want to disrupt the democratic process by causing violent incidents. My colleague Ajit Dubey joins me in this podcast. Thank you, General Pandey, for being part of the podcast. Have been waiting to talk to you, seen all your press conferences from Srinagar when you were there. I want to start the conversation with elections in Jammu and Kashmir. It's being held after 10 years and post-abrogation. You were in charge of security in Jammu and Kashmir Valley just after the abrogation. Can you tell me what the situation there is now and what it was like at that stage? And do you think that as far as the security situation is concerned, both Jammu and Kashmir are ready for elections?
Okay, so I'll start answering backwards. Firstly, there will never be a perfect condition that can be insulated for elections to be done, particularly in this region of Jammu and Kashmir, where there are multiple interest groups, which are external agencies, international state actors, non-state actors, and of course the local nuances which exist. But when I see last about 4 decades, I've been there for last 4 decades almost. Every year or every second year I was there deployed in this place. I guess there can't be a better time to go for polls. While post 370, the executive had a direct access to the bureaucracy to reach out to the population and ameliorate their conditions and have certain degree of peace and stability provided to them. We are part of democracy, and I think the people of anywhere in the country must have access to an alternate system for redress, and that is politicians. Howsoever compromised or challenged or they may be working on the fringes are this. So I think when you look at last 4 decades, and we have had multiple elections during this period, this is far better a time to go for election in terms of security and stability.
Tell us a little bit about what happened during the abrogation period. How did you manage the situation there at that time? Or did you expect a lot of bloodshed? Because that's what politicians were saying, that if it had been, if the Article 370 would be taken away, there'd be bloodshed all along. Ho hi nahi sakta, you will lose Kashmir forever. Those were the kind of voices that we were hearing. What happened there? Were you apprehensive, and how was it managed, contained?
Okay, while almost all agencies and the political environment did talk of what you were saying at 370s, that wall or that that article which actually connects Kashmir or Jammu Kashmir to rest of the country. And when it snaps, it'll break away and take away Jammu and Kashmir away from the rest of the country. Having been there 6 times, I was not exactly there during the abrogation period. I left that place just a little before the abrogation took place. My engagement with the population, and trust me, in my 6 terms before the tenure of the Corps Commander, I was quite. I always loved to interact with people. I'm a people person. I never believed ever that there'll be an uprising of the sort which was thought about. Because all said and done, people of Kashmir, people of Jammu and Kashmir, I'll rather say, are very, very smart, intelligent people. It is unfortunately the compulsions of the region, the compulsions of a environment which forces them out onto the street, and which at times may not be related to bread, butter, job, poverty and such like issues, but is related to some other factors which are involved. So I guess I was never apprehensive. I was quite sure, and I think I articulated these issues in multiple times on various forums which used to take place, that I guess that these situations will not happen. But coming at that point of time at 370, I guess what I was doing the ADG Stratcom, and I was quite fully aware how the things were unrolling there.
You need to explain what strategic communication, what is
Okay,
Stratcom and how.
It is an erstwhile ADG, Public Information Environment, Information Directorate of Indian Army, which deals as an interface with the rest of the country and the world to inform the public about what we in Indian Army are involved with. And essentially we engage with the media, with information war in IW and stuff like that, to keep public informed of what we're doing. So I was quite aware of what is happening in this thing, because that time General Dillon was, Danny Dillon was the Chinar Corps commander, and we were talking.
Yes, we had him on the show very early in the podcast who explained to us.
So I was in touch with him during this process, and of course with the various staff and the police officials as well at that point of time. I think what the smartest thing they did was to retain the security forces and umbrella which had gone for the Shri Amarnath Ji Vijay, Amarnath Ji Yatra, which takes place. And they got retained. And a lot of time people talked about that you got a security umbrella and that is why nothing has come about. But I can also assure you that over a period of time since then, within 6 to 7 months and over a year, the numbers of security forces which are deployed diminished to nearly about 40%, 30% thereafter. But people got used to it. They understood the implication of removal of 370 and they started seeing the advantages of what came with abrogation of 370. Because a number of actions got taken place by the state, the UT executive at that point of time. Primarily, I think the power went down to the grassroots level. There is a panchayat, that entire system of block and panchayat came into being. They got empowered in terms of funds coming to them, and they knew that they can reach out to the bureaucracy and get things done on the ground straight away, and road construction activity can take place. I guess all those things helped actually in making 370 abrogation a good time, good choice to be done at that point of time.
Yeah, there are different views about it. Of course, some of them believe that their identity has got lost because once it becomes a union territory, they lost their constitution, they lost their flag, they lost a lot of it. But then those who didn't have the benefits of those things, those who were suffering under living in a conflict zone, they talk like what you are saying. It's just the benefits of being in a state or a union territory which is no longer, or which is on the verge of not being a conflict zone. But I need to speak about these attacks which are happening south of the Pir Panjal. Why are these attacks happening in the past, almost 2 years, I think, excessive 26 or 27 attacks which have taken place by some estimates in that Jammu Rajouri region? Why is that happening?
So, Smita, can you I'll just go back a little bit on
Sure.
this 370, Article 370. You know, it's an article of appeasement, is an article for ambivalence. It is an article to use, exploit by local circumstances to browbeat the rest of the country for better funds, better privileges, better system, which actually went out to them, but did not reach the groundswell. Right? It was also an instrument which was not only used by the local environment, but also by external agencies to put India into a fix all the time. So every time something happened, people talked of Article 370.
And it's disputed region,
Disputed
etc.
region. Yeah. So all those things went out of the window the moment you removed 370. And therefore it pained the other people who were the benefactors. I will rather say the people who actually sought advantage through the wall of 370 for themselves and the very select group of privileged people who saw it. Maybe it was a group of radical, separatist people who were in variety of places in power, contractors. The money actually went down to only these people and not to the rest of the population. Abrogation of 370 took care of the fringe population which were living in the mountains, hills, Pahadis, Gujars. There were so many people who were not getting the benefits of what was happening in the rest of the India in terms of constitutional amendments and such like things to reach out to them. And all those things started flowing back to this population. It did hurt people who had the power to speak, and the people who didn't have the power to speak, of course, benefited. Coming to a part of this question that what is happening in South of Kashmir, I'll start with one facet that time and again media, people in various power structure, leadership position, they seek success, a very, very quick success in an environment of insurgency. There are enough examples within the country and outside that the ideology whatsoever, when it persists in the body in form of a parasite or virus, it tends to erupt the moment your body starts to become weak and stop focusing. And that has been unfortunately our problem. The second is the strategic orientation of Pakistan. Me and you and rest of the entire strategic community of our country knows very well it aren't going to change. Till the time the strategic orientation of Pakistan changes, because Jammu and Kashmir is the jugular vein for them to use. You may have any amount of major incidents elsewhere. A smallest of incident in Jammu and Kashmir raise hackles for times to come. You have talked of 24 months, 27 incidents. There are very large number of areas where things happen much worse. Nobody talks of it. But this get hyphenated. And this is...
It's always been the case, right?
Yeah, it's always been the case. So I always believe that till the time, the unique location, the geographical, geostrategic location of Jammu Kashmir is such. And of course, there are other factors which will ensure that will remain the lens of external agencies to actually bind our country. Nobody gets happy when our country progresses.
But why was it that for 2 decades Pakistan didn't do anything or didn't do as much in this Jammu, Rajouri, Poonch area, but did it north of the range?
Why is the focus now shifting towards south of Pir Panjal?
Exactly.
So firstly, I think it will be incorrect to assume that they did not. They did try. They did do something. There were times in 90s, in late 90s, south of Pir Panjal was also heavily infested with terrorist activities, and a lot of operations were conducted in south of Pir Panjal at that point of time. Our memories are short, possibly that's why.
No, but last 2 decades.
Yeah. So
even in the 90s, when the Pandits ran away, there were refugee camps in Jammu. If it was unsafe, the refugee camps wouldn't have been in Jammu,
so
right?
Jammu is not north of Pir Panjal, south of Pir Panjal. South of Pir Panjal is a large expanse which goes around outside the lip of Pir Panjal, which is Rajouri, Kishtwar,
Which is where they are doing. Yeah.
Which is where they are doing. So there is first is this part that firstly this is the place, the terrain is possibly one of the most difficult terrain.
It's
till till now, till few years back, they were able to articulate, do their bit. Whatever they wanted to do was in Kashmir Valley, because they had possibly a certain degree of population support and all. That has waned over a period of time because Kashmiris also have realized that they are being taken up the gumtree by this whole thing. So one is that. But more importantly, I guess the terrain south of Pir Panjal is nearly 3 times larger.
But it's flatter, no, compared
No, it's
to...
not. No, it's not flatter. It is firstly very, very steep.
It's
large
large.
number of
Yes.
folds,
But
foliage.
are they coming in from the IB then now?
They may come anywhere from, but they are operating. These operations are being conducted in these dense forest. The terrain is tough. The terrain precludes employment of technology. This is the place where technology gets defeated.
Why?
When you get into a cave, when you get into a fold, when you get into a thick brush or foliage or a tree cover, how much ever you fly RPV or UVs and drones or signal communication and communication and all, it goes bust. It can't function.
How was it successful in Kashmir? How were you successful in Kashmir and you can't be in Jammu then?
So Kashmir had got an issue of that they had population, density of population. Our middle to higher reaches are barren. They can be seen. But here, when you climb, I've seen both sides. When you climb up, it is only in the fringe on the top that is barren. But rest of the entire terrain has got folds, they got caves, which are very difficult to assess. They're hardly much of, because there's no population. Therefore, the road network infrastructure is not that much going up to in those into the
In Kishtwar?
in all these
In this
areas
entire-
in this entire region. So it is a much more difficult. The areas in Kashmir may be glaciated, may be rocky, may be barren, may be high altitude, super high altitude, that level. So that is a place where their survival in the winters becomes difficult. But here the heights are not that steep. They aren't that tough. The second is the type of the population density. That matters. The numbers of terrorists are not huge. They are well trained, committed. The numbers are very less. So therefore the reliance on population is that much restricted. So they need to conduct an operation, make a quick getaway. By the time the forces build up, they are into the depth of the crevasses, into caves, and they are hiding, waiting for another month or 2 months to pass to conduct an operation.
Okay, so they are not going back across the border. They are staying put after conducting the...
Obviously, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's what we are seeing from the hideouts which have been busted. They have.
It's not hit
packed-
and run now.
Yeah,
It's
they have
not.
packed
They're not
in lot
trying to
of-
escape the country after
no,
attacking.
No, why should they? They can't. It's not easy to come.
That's
and
what I
go.
was going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much into the depth from the IB and LC. Right. So they are hiding. They just require one committed overground worker to provide them a sack of food in which they can survive for next about 10
Isn't it
days.
harder to get an OG in this region in Jammu, Kishtwar, Rajouri, Poonch area?
Drugs, money, and radicalization can buy you anything. Right. So you don't require thousands of them. You just require few of them. And as long as you got a few committed, duly radicalized person available, either for money or for drugs or for any other extremist fundamentalist reason,
Isn't
I think it's
the
adequate.
village information network in this area stronger than it was in the north?
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of
Informers,
complaints are coming. A lot of the shortcomings which are being pointed out is that there is lack of human intelligence in this.
This is exactly what I'm saying. That north of Pir Panjal, the density of population is there. So human int comes from population base. But the density of population into these middle and upper reaches is reduced. Who will give you that human intelligence? Second is human intelligence requires technology. So while you may have 1 tower, 2 towers available, you have to have that reach out to those people to give you information. Right? So whom should they give? Now when the density of terrorists is larger, let's say you had 300, 400, 500, there's a palpable compulsion on the population to connect, to reach out, to support. But when you have just fewer in numbers, it's a good strategy. So you have fewer numbers, you achieve your aim. But if you have 150, 200, 300 chaps, then you know exactly where they are hiding. And the Indian army can come or the security forces can hunting for you.
So now I want to know about the targets. Who are they targeting? Because there's one report which says that since 2021, almost 40% of the killings of security personnel in Jammu and Kashmir was in that Jammu region. Now, are they targeting security personnel? Are there targets of civilians? What are they targeting and why and how? In the sense that is it large explosions they want, or they want targeted attacks? What is it that they're looking for? And I mean, in the sense
Okay.
that you would know what causes more impact internationally, because I'm guessing that that's what they want.
I think they don't want impact internationally.
Oh.
They possibly want to discredit the present system of the governance or government or the claims of security agencies that peace is there. They want to tell a message that the peace is still fragile. Right? We are here, we will operate at will. So the targeting is of not either security forces or people, is a target of opportunities. If I can come from the upper reaches, come to a place, carry out a strike, it may be a security force which is unaware, hit and I can escape. I will hit the security forces or I'll hit a bus. Somewhere I will work it out in a manner that neither I should get caught nor I should create a sensationalism which is so beyond that the masters who are controlling us across are helmed, controlled or pushed into the boundaries of FATF and they are brought into certain degree of spotlight. So maintain that temperature in a manner you don't see a spate of activity. You see these strikes happening over a period of time. It happens today, it will happen after about 2 months, 3 months, 6 weeks, when the memory of this incident fades away. And as the area is too large, so an incident will take place somewhere in Rajouri, thereafter sometime it will take place in Kishtwar. They are distinctly far apart to carry a memory for the population that what is happening to them, but it announces their survival, arrival, presence, and it also tells us that your security system is not working good enough.
And who are these people? Are they, you are, when you say FATF, I'm guessing that you're clear that they are Pakistanis. They are not local terrorists.
So, for me, it doesn't make a hue, whichever hue that person may belong. He may be a Pakistani, he may be a local, right?
Supported by Pakistan.
But the support is coming from there. It is not indigenized enough.
What is support? You
It is
mean
support.
man and you mean person? You mean the communication technology which they are carrying with them, the equipment, the weaponry, everything is Pakistani?
Instructions, orders. Rest, everything can be bought and created. It can come from anywhere. But the control of orders has to be from some place. It is not local. There are no local leaders, there are no local effort which is surviving today in which they can calibrate control operations.
There's no militant group, indigenous
There's
militant group.
I'll not say that. I'll say there will be local terrorists. There are local terrorists. But there is no leadership per se today.
They have been killed, eliminated, put in prison. Is that it? Or have
Absolutely.
they just disappeared?
No, there no. 3 years, 4 years back, or before 370, during the period of 370, the people used to come and announce that I am the leader of Lashkar-e-Tauba. I am the leader of Jaish-e-Mohammed. I am a district commander. Are you hearing those noises?
No.
No.
None.
In fact, I think the last thing that I can seem to remember is that photograph, and those which people used to put out, this one gone, this one gone,
Yeah.
this one gone, and then this one gone, this one gone, this one gone.
This-
And by the end of it, they were just black marks, all gone.
Yeah, correct. So by the time actually
That
when
had
by
a
the
lot
time
of impact.
I was, so when they know that my shelf life is very
Yeah.
short, I also not to, they are becoming smarter. They don't want to die for the cause now anymore. Right.
There's no glorification that we saw for the past, I would think, 3 to 4 years. Having seen it over the years, every time the body would come and then the chest beating which would happen, the bodies were not released. That was another thing which was happening. That the funeral or whatever you want to call it, the burial would happen in unmarked graves. and there was no outrage when that started happening. That kind of
I must tell you very good insight. I was a GOC of Kilofors that time, and I asked this issue from the local population that why do you want to go? Because when you go for such a celebratory environment for death, whom are you? What happens? Do you think? He says, "हमारे बच्चे motivate हो जाते हैं. Are you happy with it?" None of them was happy. I said, then why do you go? You don't stop us. Right? Yeah, you don't stop us. Actually, so in our time, I'm talking of now 2017-18.
what a thing to say.
Yeah.
You don't stop us,
No,
so
but,
we won't do it.
But please understand, you're not getting the Kashmiri community per se. A common man, a general population doesn't want to partake in such activities. They are very, very metropolitan. They are very modern, very forward-looking. They want well for the children. But there is a layer of element which watches, controls. So if you don't go for this activity of the burial, then your houses will be broken. There will be somebody will throw stones. You'll be castigated. So there is a process which happens in the smaller communities and this thing. Nobody wants to be excluded from that society.
But you don't see a mirror image of that happening in Pakistan. There was never, when suicide bombers in Pakistan and things, unki bodies kabhi वापस नहीं जाती into the villages and towns. Photograph आता है and said that this person has died for the cause of jihad. But there was nothing like that. There was no glorification or anything like that.
But we were giving it. And there is a concept from a place called Shopian, Sopor, Kulgam. There used to be a team of people who used to move in 4 to 5 buses. They used to have that band, black band, black cloth, flag with its marks written. And they used to all move from one place to from one burial to another, to only collect people for this sort of celebratory environment. And if you've seen the pictures, the mother is clueless what is happening. Suddenly somebody will come and put a AK in her hand and make one burst fired and thereafter move out. The media will focus into the crowd and it seemed that thousands have got together. So eventually when they started telling me, we started passing very clear instructions that you will not go. Because in case somebody carries out a celebratory fire, we will, because there's a terrorist inside, we will come in. And slowly the numbers started dwindling. In fact, in one of the operations in Sopor, I remember the numbers just dropped. The local family members came to the tune of about 150. It was not orders, instructions. It was just by encouraging people not to attend such.
But
So
that's
they
not
don't want to
happening in Jammu, right? In this area. When I say Jammu, I just mean the region.
Yeah.
These 24 odd attacks which have happened, nothing of that sort is happening. I mean, you just cannot see a pattern similar to what was happening in the north.
370 happened. All this burial and all stopped.
Huh.
Once they have stopped, the instructions came of not handing over the bodies. All this have diminished. What has happened? That
So, sir, now bodies are not being handed
they're not
over.
being handed over.
And
So that is why there is no radicalization which takes place. Large number of children, youth whom we asked, who became terrorists, kahan bane? We had gone there. There is a momentum of its own which takes place. There's an electric current which happens because these people are trained. They are trained like the band masters who used to move. They used to come together, collect people, organize an entire event. Entire place will have flags all over. The moment that event was over, all these flags were wrapped up. They used to sit in the vehicle and they used to go off to their respective areas.
But they would also pick up young children because jo stone pelters the, they were given, once they got to a certain age, they were given weapons and they were, taken into the fold. And then there were disappearances which happened. I'm just asking that modus operandi, is it being used in this region also, or is it completely different?
No, it's completely different because
it's completely different. And like in this region, in recent past, there have not been many terrorist deaths also.
This re-emergence of these acts have taken place in last about 2 years. The general population support base is not there, right? The numbers are not significant. And second is they are also not desirous of it. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants that kind of a thing. Plus, please understand, there's a security grid. The writ of the police runs. They will not allow such things to happen. But sometime before 370, possibly it was an accepted norm to allow it to happen.
How are American-made and Austrian-made weapons being found at these hideouts? How do they have such sophisticated weapons? Where are they getting it from?
So I said the movement of weapons today can take place through drones. It can take place through infiltrating columns. It is not so tough. Time and again people castigate anybody who's seen the terrain on the line of control will possibly, when you stay there 24 by 7, 7 days in a week and 365 days in a year, you realize that there cannot be a perfect man-made barrier to ensure nothing crosses this side or that side. There are enough ways and means to bypass systems. So this is not the only way to
So fencing is really...
No, but it's not open.
It's
you can just
deterrent.
walk in. It's a deterrent. So where thousands could come, only one or two comes.
Okay.
Right? The choice is there. You just can't say either or. So it is one way. After all, when the fence came in 2004, the numbers dropped like anything.
Yes.
The numbers came down to only 20%. There were geopolitical considerations as well.
Yes.
There is a time global war on terror was happening.
Yeah.
The numbers which are available to Pakistan also diminished. The people didn't want to come. In fact, when as a brigade commander somewhere in 2011-12 in North Kashmir, the terrorists didn't want to cross. The Pakistanis had to cut off their monthly paycheck. They used to give about 10,000 rupees every month to no, you go back to India and carry out actions and all. They were very comfortable living there. They didn't want to come onto this side, especially through that route. So people wanted to come through Nepal. They wanted to cross over. They got married. They got children. They sent their families inside, and thereafter they sought for a certain degree of amnesty and they crossed over. There was a certain degree of people who came also across after an amnesty was given by one of the state governments. So the fact is that people didn't want to come.
Explain this thing about amnesty.
Well, there was a time when it came that surrendered terrorists, we want to get people back into the folds. The numbers were too large because everybody was pumped up into the idea of freedom, right? They did not realize suddenly that it'll have a color of religion. They always thought that Jammu Kashmir is unique and there'll be a support. But slowly after some time, large number of people started getting disenchanted. But they had no options. When you have picked up a weapon and the FIR has been put across with you, you didn't have a choice to become a normal person. So there was a time that there was a general amnesty was given that if you leave your weapon, the case will be dropped. You'll have to serve a reduced sentence, or maybe in case you're not committed any criminal act, possibly none at all, and you'll be subsumed into the society. So a large number of, I don't have the figure offhand today, but almost in North Kashmir, because actually the people who suffered the most during insurgency or terrorism was the people of North Kashmir. So actually you will not find much support in North Kashmir to any radical element of terrorist activity. You will always find some degree of support only in South Kashmir or south of Panjal. That is also now, of course, waned a lot.
Sir, you went there after General Dhillon. You went there as the corps commander. That was the time a lot of restrictions on movement, on social media, restrictions imposed during the abrogation were still in place, and but after that, what we saw was that relatively longer spell of not much violence in Kashmir Valley and south of Pir Panjal also. It started very late, around 23, end of 22, 23 it started. So what was the situation like? Lot of this backlash was expected that violence will take place, खून की नदियाँ बह जाएंगी and all that. Like, was nothing happening, or how did the security forces manage this peace?
Yeah, firstly, let me talk about south of Kashmir first. When you make, the terrorist activities have picked up, I will like to keep it as an aberration, right? It is not like a groundswell which has taken place. So there are numbers, there are numbers of hits, but it is not like 90s. It is not even like mid of 2010s or 2015, 16, 17, 18 till this thing. Similarly, the posture of people is also not akin to the similar people. So there are numbers, they are supported, they have taken acts. When you put this entire thing to a paragraph, into a graphical representation, you'll find them as a blip which is happening. But now suddenly there's a blip happening, there's a focus which has happened that what has failed. Actually, nothing much has failed, right? They will get caught, they will get neutralized, they will get moved out, they'll get sorted out. I'm very, very confident of the people who are on the ground who are working on this thing. But what changes ensured post 370? That the control on protest, those stone pelting, I think there are a number of measures which took place. So I think I think we need to give a lot of credit to the present dispensation there with the present LG, Manoj Sinha ji. The way he has moved out, galvanized, ensured a whole of government approach, which has binded together to reach out the population. There are a number of, I don't want to get into the governance aspect, but I guess there was no difference between the army and security and CRPF or police or we used to sit, talk, work. This is ongoing all the time. But the level of synergy which came around at this point of time was significantly different than what I saw in my previous 6 tenures. It was awesome. And the leadership of people who are put across at each level, the Chief Secretary, the DGP, the IGP Police, the Vijay Kumar and such like people, they were actually professionals par excellence.
I think also all of you who were posted there, at various levels we have interacted with them. I just feel that you all felt at that time, I don't know, I mean, I'm from the outside and so is Ajit. But we felt at that stage that all of you felt that this is this watershed moment.
Yeah.
Many of you had done tours of duty, but you realized this is a historical watershed moment and we all just have to work as a cohesive unit.
Correct.
I mean, this is what I felt. My takeaway from this and is this. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong.
You're so right. Firstly, we also felt this needs to succeed. But the bottom line is that this kind of a synergy, that it is an Indian Army's achievement, it is a police achievement, this was just not there. It was an achievement of a whole of government. It was a perfect example of a synergy which was happening and continues to happen even today. Because I'm in touch with the people, they're actually very happy with the way the government responds there to the Indian Army or the security forces, challenges and everything. And the selection of people who were hemming various modern. I think the Indian Army went out to select the right people. So did the CRPF, the police. Everybody put the right guys into the right place to ensure the success of this entire
And I think all of you
thing.
were confident in your jobs. See, what happens is that, we are from the outside again, as I keep repeating to the viewers and listeners. Even if there is one insecure person who's looking for a post-retirement job or who's insecure about his own, कि मैं 3 press conference करूँगा, फलां 2 कर रहा है, I should make sure that मेरा एक और हो जाए, फिर उसका press conference. You know what I mean? These are little ego battles that happen.
And Kashmir
that wasn't happening.
And Kashmir has suffered many a times because of this credit mongering. That
So
I
will,
get
if
credit
you will
for this.
find
मेरे को ये medal मिलेगा, फलां को दूसरा medal मिलेगा. It was not happening at that stage. I don't know whether it was everybody just put their personal egos down and felt that this is ये मौका फिर नहीं आने वाला.
Dilbag and Vijay are not sitting here today. I must tell you, all 3 of us and the Zulfi and others who were from CRPF, we just never sought. Nobody wanted to. Let's say if we decided, okay, Vijay will give or DGP will give the press conference, he said, no way, Corps Commander साहब हम साथ ही होंगे तभी देंगे. So there was a real pull and push. The entire police hierarchy, and I have operated with JKP for now, for the entire service career, 35 years. There cannot be a more professional organization than that. One of the awesomest professional organization. While of course Army is somewhere much beyond, but they are as equal or as professional and as patriotic. This thing. Their SSPs were good. Their I must tell you that whole system was actually was very good to, but it all goes to the leadership as well. I guess the credit also goes to the LG to have ensured that he walked the talk. He came across. There were times when events happened. He just came to the Corps headquarters, and he never had that ego, that I am distinct from this thing. I only control bureaucracy. You guys have to come to me.
And yet,
and
when
stuff
that
like this.
success is there, and then these attacks happen, that makes everybody a little worried about that. Whether is this peace just as we were talking? Is it fragile? Can it break because
Smita,
of this constant? Because there's an external factor which we can't control.
Peace is always fragile. Please look at your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Please look at within our own country. You take 40 years of peace and it just cracks down, right? It's always fragile. Population is always emotional. There cannot be a more emotional population than Kashmiri. In the morning, he will come and serve you. He'll love you. He will hug you. And thereafter, there will be some moment of time in which, out of compulsion, he may have to throw stone or get together. And thereafter, by the lunchtime, the situation's different. He'll meet you in private. One of the bestest hosts are these people. I've been with them as a company commander, as a very, very young officer. Their women are actually very, very warm-hearted. It's basically a matriarchal society. I have got a number of instances I can narrate. They've saved my life in operations. I owe a lot to these people. But the fact of the matter is, peace will always be fragile where your internal enemies want to exploit the schism, the fault lines which exist by using the facilities of external agencies. So till the time our own Chechens realize that destiny is in peace and progress, in stability, I think peace will always be fragile. Never, and that is I think it is possibly in our subcontinent, at least our Indian community, that we get a little success. First goal ठोक दिया, तो हमें लगता है हम जीत गए, and thereafter our hands come down and we get couple of strokes down. We cannot have that system going on, especially with Jammu and Kashmir, because that is the place from where our country will always be leveraged.
Okay.
Yeah, for last 70 years we have been leveraged by HR organizations. HR organizations are not being paid by us or by anything. There are self-interest group. When you see the tail, when you see the NGOs, who publish everything into Geneva and they target Indian Army, police and the systems here. I think will always be, it's a jugular vein which will be always. And you look at the Indian map of our country, is the jugular vein. From pre-partition days, it was decided to keep this area under spotlight. It will always be in the spotlight and we have to be always aware of it.
Sir, we discussed 370. Now it's been 5 years. Now we are holding elections and now political parties are trying to say, like NC has declared that they will have it back, the 370. Is it possible? And is it can it be an election issue in Kashmir? Is it an election issue?
It's PDP which has said.
No.
NC also?
Both of them actually. Started with NC and PDP is virtually replicated. In fact, I think Umar Abdullah went on saying that why can't we join hands and all, because our manifestos are similar.
Statehood was there, but I didn't realize the 370 also is something both have said.
That is where there's that one facet of a Kashmiri, or not only Kashmiri, actually even people from Jammu, very, very emotional people. And if you are able to swing a chord that ये आपका था और आपका हक छीन लिया गया, it may strike the chord. But I feel, and there's a very beautiful open letter which was written and being on WhatsApp university circulation, that people are asking the political parties, all political parties, that Please see that you want to go to the uncertainties of 2017-18. I have seen that time. Not a very good time. Not a very good time. Will they want to go to that uncertainty, or will they like to go through the progress which is being done in last 5 years?
You're talking about the Pulwama time and
No,
around
Pulwama was
Pre-Pulwama.
Pre-Pulwama.
Actually, post Burhan Wani and pre-Pulwama, the amount of stone pelting, it was all calibrated. It was all about thanks to...
You were the Kilo Force commander at that time.
I was the Kilo Force commander. Thanks to NIA and the system, that entire, and this demonetization, the money got sucked out from that place. And suddenly that 500 rupees or 100 rupees in public forum, those young children have said as much. In front of me in a YouTube live channel, we were having a seminar. A couple of boys have come out and very clearly said, we were being given money to do this XYZ, and why should I not if I throw a stone or 2 stone and get a 500 rupee out? If you don't, somebody else will do. And if you also don't, thereafter you may be secluded from that group of people who, it's a band of brothers kind of a thing. So we had no choice, we had to do. And that's the norm. And I think anybody who wants to think that they want to again create a wall or whatever, these are all political discussion. I will not like to get into it. But the fact of the matter is that I hope anybody does anything, they need to look at the future of the children, the youth, which is there in Jammu and Kashmir. Last 7 decades and last 4 decades especially, there have been unhappiness. There's a very viral video. I had gone to Lal Chowk with the army commander in the night, and we met this boy on the kiosk, and he was serving some stuff and all, and we had some stuff with him, and I asked him, he was smiling, a rare thing. I asked him that Kashmiris don't smile, why are you smiling? And he would just give some answer to me that I know you and nice to meet you, and we've been hearing about you, and therefore I'm smiling. And thereafter I went to a couple of other places, and everywhere I went, people are smiling. It's a rare attribute to see a Kashmiri smiling. It's to enjoy a large number of people who are empowered. They need to fly out from the valley to come out and experience laughter and happiness and joy and entertainment. A society which loves music. There are thousands of boys and girls. They got melodious voice. They're super excellent singers. Their hands are structured to play music. They're artisans without compare anywhere in the world. They love life. I am sure that everybody who's today coming to a fray will seek that future, not based on some radical extremist theory, which has lived its life 70 years back or 80 years back.
So what you saw in the years that you've been in Jammu Kashmir, I'm sure the politicians of Jammu Kashmir have also seen that. You've also seen what Pakistan has done to India for decades together in Jammu and Kashmir. Why is it then that politicians say that if we don't talk to Pakistan, Kashmir will become another Palestine and it will become another Gaza-like situation?
I'm quite amazed actually. And I started my talk with you by making the statement that strategic orientation of a suicidal country, right, which is sorting out its own people all over the place. We know what exactly is happening and things are out of hand. If we still want to reach out, by a number of times they have backstabbed all our political leaders. I think we have to be smart enough, keep our boundaries safe, secure, ensure the life goes on. We don't have to talk to them. After all, we don't have to talk to any of them. Yeah, we must. That is a diplomacy. You must have if your region is not safe, the fires are going to touch you, right? The unfortunate part is that today, that fire is touching that country, right? We need to keep our people safe. But if you want to go the same way, you want to reach out, you want to talk of the same narrative, I don't think you mean well for your own people, right? Uh, that
You're a
dis-
communications person, so tell me the pressures on India from other countries, from powerful nations, to open up communication with Pakistan. What do you report back to the government? Should be, shouldn't be done?
no, communication should always be on. But you have to be smart about the communication. You just can't, while you make communicate, I am not very sure what the present day government will want or not want. But there must be track one, track two, some sort of a talk, messaging. I'll give the example of messaging of ceasefire, right? So ceasefire has happened through a messaging. After all, a country was getting punished. They realized this punishment is not worth it. They reached out. Ceasefire was achieved. It is also a system of dialogue.
The ceasefire of 2020 that you're
Correct.
talking about.
Correct. So it is also a method of messaging.
It's, I think, the longest period, if I
Yeah,
not
one of the
mistaken,
longest periods.
right?
You're
One of the
absolutely
longest.
one of the longest period. So what is given the benefit to us? We may say as a soldiers, he's getting well prepared. He's looking after his own infrastructure. He is allowing his militant infrastructure to thrive and survive and stuff like that. But you look at the people for the line of control, their life, children going to school, progress, thriving markets, buses running. In case ceasefire gets certain degree of difficulties to us, but gets great amount of prosperity to people who are in the extreme regions, a person in Srinagar will be beneficial of everything which through the flight or by road. But a guy sitting on Uri onto a fringe, or a guy sitting in Tangdhar or Kupwara or in Karen sector, Gurez, Tilel, they are devoid of basic amenity. And on that you bring down artery fire and the whole issue.
It's hell.
It's hell for them. So why shouldn't you look at, so it's a mode of communication. The mode of communication was maybe in terms of force or physical. I'm sure they must be having certain degree of engagement, but to change the very nature of a country on which it was premised upon will take a catastrophic event for them to understand.
But one is seeing articles being written in Pakistani newspapers, and I'm completely discrediting the podcasts which are coming on YouTube, because I believe it's all for engagement from Indians, for clicks from Indians, because that gets them more revenue. So I'm going to put that aside. I'm talking about the articles which are coming out now, where they are saying that, oh, India doesn't want to talk to us. हम तो बात करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन वो ही नहीं बात कर रहे हैं. Suddenly it's changed now, where they're literally saying that it is good for both the countries. बात करनी चाहिए. There should be more people to people contact and all that. They're not getting the message that Indians say, to hell with you. We don't want to talk to you. You don't understand that all of India now doesn't care two hoots. So there is such a change, because there is a unanimity literally in India that we don't need to have a relationship with Pakistan. There is two views about having talk with China and to improve ties. But with Pakistan, there seems to be, first time I sense at least in the country, a unanimity across, other than a few politicians who probably need to play to their vote banks.
About a couple of years back, the situation had come to a point where we as journalists were saying that Pakistan पे कुछ भी लिखो, ज़्यादा कुछ छपता वपता नहीं है. So China was the main, like Indians didn't want to read or do much with what is happening in Pakistan. People were getting more excited by news like that Pakistan army doesn't have gas and they have their financial situation
to take them
was
for
bad.
granted and say that they don't have their ability to strike into our vulnerable areas is also a mistake.
Yeah, of course. And we have our vulnerabilities, we have our fault lines, and they will continue. Please see the
because
graph.
their own existence depends on that. उनका वजूद ही वो है.
Especially the Pakistan army.
You please understand why the ceasefire came about. Ceasefire came about, their western front was burning. Taliban things were happening. Right? There were internal challenges. There were economic issues. There was an FATF breathing on their neck, to carry out all these things. So therefore they came
Grey
to...
से black, black से grey, grey से black में आना.
Correct. So they did this.
Yeah.
But the fact is that you please also see, every time we have seen a progressive Pakistan, they have come back and hit us somewhere. That's the history. The moment you give them good weapon system and all, and they feel now if they are empowered in 65, they'll come and whack. Okay, India is weak after post 1962, and we are very, very strong. We have got all the systems in place, and let's come and do something funny. So I think the strategic orientation needs to change, which is not changing still. Right?
Of the Pakistan
Of
Army.
the Pakistan Army.
And what about us? Because your information warfare is again one of your strong points, your forte. Can you tell us about India? How have we changed, or have we changed at all?
So I guess firstly, we have also started talking about all these things. There is to be a block. We never discussed these issues, the relationship with the country, the challenges, opportunities. In public domain, it was left to a PIB related one-page information. Now you see, actually online and digital space has put everything onto a flat world. If you don't inform the media on this flat world, you'll be left behind. So you got the Prime Minister, you got the Minister of External Affairs, you got even a district magistrate or a additional SP of a police also coming out and tweeting information onto the digital space to keep public informed. So I think there is a major change which has happened, that public is aware that there's a contact which has taken place in Jammu and Kashmir, and XYZ is going to happen, and thereafter there is certain degree of follow-up. Information is being provided. I think our country has become very, very transparent, and that's good for strategic communication. And therefore,
Transparency is good in strategic communication.
Yes.
In what sense? Because I always feel that basically you people are opaque. Getting information is the most difficult thing.
I don't think so.
No?
Right, yeah. Because in fact, if you go to ADGPI or the Air Force site and all, I think starting from equipment, in fact, somebody was mentioning about...
the first reaction is, hua hi nahi? I think Ajit can come up with so many stories.
Yeah, but...
ये तो हुआ ही नहीं, तुम्हारे पास कैसे आया is the next question.
So that is right, because we need to give you information which is verified.
Yes.
Because there are a large number of... Because when ADG Stratcom or any representative makes a statement, unlike floods or an earthquake or some other event which has taken place, a contact in a jungle takes time, right? And the flow of information will surely take time. It will also take time to understand that this dissemination of information, what all effects it will have. It's something like in Kargil operation, a journalist is standing at a place and giving information of a live ops. So that is the best form of transparent communication system to tell the country that this is how the operations are unfolding. But by the way, you are also informing the enemy to retaliate to the right spot and thereafter take out your guns. So in military information system, you have to be very careful how much you want to let out. It's something like you just mentioned about that one of those podcasts.
Are there rules in place? Because you served during Kargil too, and you've served post that, especially after the abrogation and beyond. So tell me, how did the rules of engagement change?
Rules of engagement in terms
in the
of?
sense of how reporting is done, how you give information to the media, and how you give information now. I mean, you're talking about a span of several decades. And did we bring in SOPs in place, and have they withstood the test of time?
So firstly, with the legacy media, that's I'm saying newspaper and TV and everything, you had a time of 24 hours available to you to inform. Right, incident took place in a remote area, and similar was the information challenges also, where the communication was so fragile that something happened in a border area. It took time also to come to the headquarters to actually understand what has happened. The system of a situation report used to be there. So there was a challenge. But then legacy media was informed in a formal manner by a press statement or a release that this has happened, and they used to carry it as such. They didn't also have other modes of information to get. Now when Ajit gives me a call, he's got 1,000 sources which are there who are telling him that from the thana or from the ground or a villager who's
GPS
on
WhatsApp
pictures.
groups.
on his WhatsApp group, on his calling list, somebody will say, अजीत भाई आपको याद है मैं यहाँ और ये खबर है कुछ चल रहा है वहाँ पे fire. And now he comes back to ask about that information. It is a flat world. The digital space and the mobile revolution has allowed the access for a person sitting in Delhi. Now you imagine of the media guys who are sitting in Kashmir or in Jammu or in Baramulla and the district. The moment you tell Ajit that ye khabar hai and you start ticking it here ANI, that chap knows where the khabar is gone. He says, aapne to mere pit pe laat maar di. So look at the other part. So what happens now is much more smarter. A thing happens, event happens, and I think I'm talking of 15 Corps. The JKP releases because they are the prime. We are conducting operations along with them, right? Whatever operations are there, they are the prime lead. They issue a tweet from the police or from this thing, and thereafter the 15 Corps or Chinar Corps will send a message.
Also, when
Context
operations
establish.
are on, we all adopt this of deferred. We don't put out live visuals. All operations are deferred by unspecified time. So nobody knows agar हमने pictures डालें, are they early morning shots or were they previous evening shots?
Yeah.
And are the operations still on or they're completed? So it's still left vague. And mostly they're released after the op is over.
Rightly so. You know,
Yeah.
some people jump. There's a casualty. You give a call to, you start showing the picture of that person who may be alive, who may be partially injured. But now you are creating a trauma for a family. And the moment you talk of a person, that entire group of families who are associated with the person, because the soldier, the family of a soldier knows that he is operating with so-and-so officer and so-and-so soldier. You put out any sort of information which is not verified, you imagine the cause of harm you're doing.
General Dinal told us of this story, right, where his family was, I mean, it came out, it flashed that
Yeah.
he has died. There was a different person's name. And his wife prepared herself in the sense that she came out and she said, okay, I'll deal with it. And then later somebody came and said, no, it's not your husband, it's somebody else who has died. And she was still the same. And then everybody said that, but aren't you rejoicing? So she said, my
Kisi aur
husband.
ka, yeah.
Kisi aur ka.
Kisi aur ka. So, you know, so while everybody may like to have too much of a transparency, I guess we have to be
I want to know
smart
about
enough.
your experience because you said that your life also had been saved. Can you tell us, share with us of any instance like this where you felt that it was ending for you?
Yeah, you know, not exactly in that manner, but there was in 1995, there was an operation I don't want to go into background, which was much more sadder actually. But there's an operation happening in a place where we established a post. The first time we had established a post, I had taken my boys there to establish, and we had a multiple contacts. And one of our officers was surrounded. Our numbers were very less. And that time, in 90s, the terrorist numbers were higher. And he was surrounded, and I was moving with a couple of boys to release the pressure from one side of the village, of the same village, to that location. And there's a Jammu Kashmir police boy comes along from somewhere, and I was leading that party of 4 men as a young company commander. And he says, साहब आपको रास्ता नहीं पता होगा, मैं छुट्टी पर हूँ, मैं आपको ले चलता हूँ, मुझे मालूम है वो कहाँ पे हो रहा है. And he didn't have to come, right? I didn't ask him. He just comes in front, and we start running, and we walk about 10 yards, and the first bus takes him out, right? He dies. And I think that will always live very vividly in my mind. So there are other such instances in which a child comes, his mother has sent, and he comes to my number 2, that is my buddy, who's moving along with me, and, you know, holds his hand and says that बोला है इधर नहीं जाना, the खतरा है, ठीक है, something, So what I'm trying to tell you is
Do
that
you live with this all your life? Like it never goes away, right?
It
Because
doesn't
you're
go
talking
away.
about 90s.
95.
And the first thing that I ask you, and you remember that.
Yeah, this will never go out, because eventually somebody died instead of me.
Huh.
Shouldn't have happened, after all. It's
Survivor's guilt?
Yeah, of course.
You have that?
Yeah, you have. The other thing, what happens is, in the course, because of your duty, and you'll ask any of the corps commanders and any of the GOCs that you don't want to listen to that midnight call of in an operation. While operation is happening, but you don't want to listen to that call of losing anybody. It may be a civilian, it may be a soldier, it may be because life is very precious. And so I think we all carry those numbers, because it's been 2 years. I have left 2 years plus. I've left as a corps commander, and before that as a GOC. I remember each and every operation in which we lost a life. And I don't remember the successes, where we succeeded, where we killed, where we... that doesn't give you joy. But what gives you a great amount of baggage, possibly, well, of course, is part of your job and duty, that could we have done something better in training, in arming, in preparing, in intelligence, or forewarning. I don't know what, but then you always carry that guilt. Because after all, we are all human beings. And
Are you trained, sir, that when it's over and you have to hang up your boots, when you go back to civilian life, do they train you to forget or to cope with what life you've led and to move towards a civilian life? Is there any kind of training that happens?
yeah, why should we be trained? We have made a choice to live this life. My 42 years and a half, including my NDA training, has been an awesome journey. Great people.
Huh.
The memories which I have, this was a life, this was a dream I have lived.
Okay.
Because somewhere, a very young child, I saw that very beautiful movie called Hindustan Ki Kasam.
Huh.
And I still watch that movie, and I still watch that song in which Rajkumar, he walks up and sees a body, one of the jets has come and killed that soldier, and he's lying, and he said, क्या आते हैं, I'll come and take badla lunga. And then the entire song starts, Hindustan ki kasam, Hindustan kasam, I am, as narrating it, every time I see tricolor, I talk of my country's name. There is a...
रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं.
रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं, because that was the life which I always wanted. I couldn't make it in the first, second SSBs. I made it in my third SSB. And the jubilation which I had was awesome. And then, of course, I had a great time. The best memories I've got is of my regimental life, 21 years plus with my battalion, which is Siklai unit. You can't get better troops to be with.
Your son is also in the same unit?
Yeah. So this is where releasing information, right? So, it's a great journey. It's a part of your job. Don't have to, over a period of time, success and failures don't affect you, right? But
Does that happen?
Yeah, it does happen. Like, I've got, it doesn't show on your face. And it should not. And as you mature, you realize that each success you get has come at some cost.
So you also with the War College, what is your view about this whole controversy about the Agnipath scheme, and how do you think there's a lot of political discrepancy about how how it is to be viewed? When you meet young officers, what do you think their reaction is, or even JCOs for that matter?
Yeah, the beauty of all organizations is they want change, right? But when you tell them to change, they said, not me, we are perfect. Right? And the toughest organization to change is the military because of the structures, because we are bound. One cog, when it changes, it ruffles the entire system. And Agniveer or Agnipath scheme came as a transformative change. It's a major shocker for the entire system to change and adapt. But you just rewind few years back about, what is a couple of decades in the history of a nation. 1971, peace 1971, we are having a 7-year subscription.
Yeah.
We should serve 7 years. What has happened now suddenly that it has become like a big issue or a challenge to happen? And it is not rolled out fully. What efforts, challenge will come out, we'll see how it comes out. I guess we should not take it as a governmental scheme or this scheme or that scheme. But I think we must look that there was a reform required. We possibly needed also, you go out on the street, everybody says, हमें भी सबको फौज के अंदर नौकरी करना चाहिए. ठीक है, सबको मौका. Now, you can't take out 1.4 billion people to work in the Indian Army or Indian Air Force or Navy. But at least now 4 times of the people are going to work.
And I find, especially when you see in these Pahadi areas, people exercising, young boys going and exercising, it's like a movement. They all want to, and you feel terrible thinking that inka nahi hoga, sabka nahi hoga.
Sabka nahi ho sakta. So now instead of one guy making, now there are 4 guys making. Or rather 3 more guys making. So yes, retention after 4 years or 5 years will be only restricted to a particular number. So that is one part. The second is the change is accepted not by elders like us, because we are very, very steeped into our ideas and ways of life. When you ask about the younger generation, the young officers, majors, captains, they are much more adapted to change. The young soldiers who change from one phone to another, they upgrade themselves. This is a reality. They are far more mature, smarter, brilliant and adapted to change. Right? After about 10 years, these young men, when you tell them that now we are going to extend the service from 4 years to 10 years, they may say, what nonsense, what are you doing? We've got a beautiful system running. I am able to retain the good guys, the best of the best. They were, these after 4 or 5 years, I found these chaps malingering, somebody is not wanting to work and he doesn't want to remain in the service, he wants to leave. It gives an opportunity for the chap to go out. Right? By the way, now when I go out after 10 years, I see in a bank or I see in a airport, I see in CIF or I see in CRPF, मैं आपकी पलटन का आर्मी का अग्निवीर था, आज मैं यहाँ का सिपाही हूँ. So they are ambassadors which go out. So I can go on. There are challenges in any change which happen.
What about the view that you're creating a militarized society, in the sense of that when they go out into the world, they could become mercenaries, or you're talking about people...
So, Smita ji, you tell me, in China, they serve for 2 years and they go out. All of them. In America, there's a similar system which is on. In Israel, are they all militarized? Is there no law and order? Do you think that the police will sit on its thing in case you pick up a weapon or you do something wrong, you'll not be dealt with? I think we are all part of, and anybody who's coming and joining the forces, he's not becoming a bad egg every time he goes out. You'll always have exceptions. I think possibly he will take better lessons from our disciplined environment. Go out and be a good messenger.
My thing is that, it is hard to train or find people interested in becoming part of village defense committees. Once these people go out, I just feel that it is possible, because once more women come out, women Agniveers come out, when they go back to their villages, these village defense committees can become, or even your Khabri system, that also can get strengthened with Agniveers coming out, is my opinion, but I don't know about whether that's right or wrong.
You see, the scope of a person who served in this organization for 4 years to be self-employed, employed otherwise. Tomorrow, let's say we have to go for an operation and you now want to expand the base. The numbers are less. Everybody is available. If he's so patriotic after having served by 4 years, he will come willing. A person who's been trained for 4 years to fire a weapon and serve, you think he's not a ready material to come and fight for you?
Yeah.
So you can find thousands negatives. Plus denial of job. The soldier an aspirant who doesn't have that job today, where's the guarantee that he'll have today, tomorrow? Even if a normal system is adopted. So there can be always positive. I can always go and make 1,000 negatives. But the fact is that somebody has taken a decision. It must have been worked through. It has been worked through. It was discussed within the environments, and the lines of grey are so much कि आप 5 साल कर देते, आप 6 साल कर देते, आप 7 कर देते, आप 2 कर देते, आप इसका मॉडल कर लीजिए, आप उसका मॉडल कीजिए. But fact of the matter is they have to take one step, roll it out, see what are the differences,
And make changes.
Make
if
changes.
necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how you have to move forward. You're a mature nation. Why should you not do it?
Sir, one thing which we were discussing, and I wanted to ask you on that, about that, like all these terrorists posing together and army putting cross on their faces. You were, I guess, the Kilo Force commander when all these things were happening in a big way. But can you please tell us, sir, how did the army sorted them out, and how were those days in terms of terrorism? And because I've heard a lot of stories from
Okay, I'll not.
from your AOR, that how you dealt with stone pelting and all that.
Yeah. So now we are treading into tactical domain, which is slightly more dangerous.
Do you want to avoid it?
No, don't worry. Okay. Look, firstly, as a GOC or as a brigade commander and upwards, tactical operations, these operations are company commander operations, CO operations, right? Our job is only to be there when there are negatives which happen and take them on our chins to support those officers. And the moment they know that the support is there, they perform. The second is, our also job is to reach out to the population. Insurgency environments or a terrorism environment can't happen in simply wood or forest or in a terrain. It requires people. Some people have to engage with the population. I guess that very, very important thing which happened was in our time was that we were able to build a great amount of military civil security forces civil connect, right? Which ensured that the space for the terrorist continued to be denied, right? Because the moment the civilians start coming with you, the space for them to survive, thrive, even to be recruited starts becoming restricted. I think that was one of the very, very major achievement I think we focused on. And this also allowed us a development of human intelligence. So actually, while tech was important, but the most important thing which happens in this area is human intelligence, because it reflects that people don't want them. I'm not saying that the people want you, but people surely don't want a terrorist to be walking amongst them, because it is not easy. You look at a woman in a village, when she sees a man with weapon, she also knows that my child may get gravitated towards that. He may do so many other things with that weapon. It is not only, wielding the weapon on behalf of our external agencies or enemies, right, for a radical path, but it is also for perpetuating violence on them as well. So there are a number of things which are happening to those women, girls, people, boys, which was possibly discussed, talked. They don't want to talk. This entire thing I lifted when I became the Corps Commander. And the beauty of that, we had women coming onto live seminar on YouTube, knowing fully well that tomorrow they may get castigated for having made these statements. They came out and talked about it.
About the atrocities committed by the terrorists?
Yeah, terrorists or the environment or the OGWs or people who wanted to take. I guess this conversation in an insurgency environment or a environment where extremism is there is an imperative, and it is not only part of a government organization minus security forces. It is also responsibility of security forces to have that shake hand and talk to them. Because till the time they don't talk, the rest of the country or the world or their own population will not be aware. A very simple example, in one of these talks in the seminar, this boy comes up. He's about 28 years old. He says, my entire family was Jamaati. And he says that in class, I hope you know, in 90s, the first thing they targeted
Schools.
was the schools. Once you target the schools, then you go to restricted schools which are known and owned by certain degree or certain elements. And the Masterji will teach about Subhash Chandra Bose. And he'll say, or Mahatma Gandhi, unhone apne desh ke liye aise se kiya. You know, it looks very, very benign talk happening. But in the last, he will leave a word. Tumko bhi apne liye aise hi karna hai. So the entire context of the discussion changes, discourse changes. Similarly, when you get into an online messaging, you start talking of a particular piece of a place and give a different name altogether. And you start, that is how our cultural moorings are detached and changed over a period of time. If you don't have this discourse and don't talk of it, so while you may keep on killing terrorists, the factor of ism, extremism, will always remain. And as I said earlier, that even one virus resides in your mind. You may have treated all your visible signs, but the fact is it will come back strong at some point of time. And therefore my only time and again I have been mentioning this point, to achieve, we should not declare success too early. We must have a stable security grid. And somebody thought of it very wisely in 90s to get Rashtriya Rifles in. And that is very, very important because as a GOC, as a commander, as a company commander, and even as a corps commander, whenever we talked of removing a particular post, there were representations. There were representations not of livelihood, but that flag which flies in the vicinity disallows movement of not only terrorists, but people with the terrorism ideology, extremist ideology, to flourish. Because then they are scared. The population and this population, including the Pandits, have really suffered a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they are the ones who will tell you that this is going to happen, beware, be warned, and help us out of it.
Which is why, the attacks which we began the conversation with, that the attacks which are happening in the Jammu region is something that even the Pandits are very worried about.
Yeah.
Because they don't want, they don't want a return for either Jammu or Kashmir, but especially so in the Jammu region. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much, sir, for sparing the time and coming and speaking to us. Hope we see free, fair and peaceful elections in Jammu and in Kashmir.
I really
Thank you.
hope so.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
getting
you.
us over.
Thank you for watching this edition of the ANR podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.